I know that this conversation at this point, it's way past like it being relevant. I mean, it's relevant to those who are still playing the game and those who watch tournaments, stuff like that. But I mean, I guess, yeah. I mean, kind of tournaments. I'm not even gonna really delve into that. Like when it comes to the top tier competitive play. But my goodness, is it really frustrating how freaking good Steve honestly is. And it baffles me that they don't change like there is no way from when they were going to stop patching the game. I don't remember at what point, like how much Steve stuff was figured out at that point, but there is no way that like they see what's going on. Like I feel like this is like, I doubt that this is actually the case, but after Smash 4 and Ultimate, it honestly feels like they just leave the game in a state where it's like, well, you're definitely getting the new one. Like I said, I doubt that that's what they're doing, but it makes no sense to me that they can see the stuff that Steve does and like they have no interest in patching it at all. I know that they said that they're done with patches, but it's insane when you go on Elite Smash and you're fighting somebody. It literally feels like they're not even trying. And they get away with so many things. I don't get how they didn't go like, well, maybe we should like tweak that a little bit because like, look, I'm not the best. Martian, you're actually the worst. Like, I'm not the best. But I can hold my own for the most part. Like, I think I'm pretty good. But when I fight Steve's, like there's matches where like I lose and I'm like, I got outskilled. Like whatever, I got outskilled, it's fine. Then there's matches though where it genuinely feels like it's like I don't really think I was outskilled. This just sucks. Like at least when I lose to somebody and they have to actually try, okay. And I'm not saying that like, oh, you select Steve and you no longer have to try. It's not what I mean. What I mean by it feels like they're not even trying is it feels like when people get a good idea of how to play Steve, they kind of just like coast by. Like they just like I fought one today. And they just kind of like stood off to the side, barely moved. They do their mining stuff, whatever. But there was like barely really any movement, and then they just would flail. They'd flail the sword, and they would just sit there because they knew I was going to get caught in it eventually. I play as K Rule, so they knew I'd get caught in it eventually. And like just like usually people like want to move around, and like normally it's like the opposite. Like they're like moving too much, like doing pointless wavelands and stuff like that. Literally barely moving. And I notice that happens like quite a bit when I fight Steves. Like I'll see them like not really do too much. And they'll still like just get away with a bunch of stuff. And I like, sometimes I win, but like even when I win, it's not fun because it felt like they didn't even try. And it felt like had they just like tried more, probably would have just lost. So like when a Steve knows what they're doing, like already it's tough when it feels like they're not even trying. If they try and they know what they're doing, it's insane. It is insane the amount of things they can do. And I understand that the game's never going to be perfectly balanced. I get that. But there's a difference between losing and it being like, dang, like that character's really good, as opposed to losing and being like, I don't even think they were fully trying. This just makes it feel pointless for me because it's like, well, if they're not even going to try, like what am I even fighting in this match for? If I win, it doesn't even feel like I really won because if they would have just tried harder, I probably would have lost. And maybe it's just me. Maybe they're not doing this, but I swear it feels like a good amount of the times they're not really trying. And the reason I think that they're doing this is because they know that they just don't really have to. They just don't really have to. Like they have so much control of the match just from the fact that they've picked Steve. And I think that's what frustrates me the most, is that it's like, okay, well, I got to like really try hard, whether you're trying hard or not. Like, no matter what level they're trying at, I have to try pretty hard if I want to even do anything. Because I get one hit, and now I'm comboed to friggin' 70. I mean, again, you know, I play as K. Rool. He's a big meatball, so like he's gonna get comboed more. But like those combos, and then like, you know, I know you can SDI, but it gets annoying to have to just the whole freaking match. You're just rubbing up against the edge of the control stick. Like after a while, it's like I don't even feel like doing this anymore. Like and anyway, when they're really good, it feels like they just follow it anyway. They just follow the DI. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can get out of it at points. I've heard some people say that some people are just lazy and they don't want to SDI. I don't know how far that goes though, because like I feel like they can just follow the DI, but maybe not. I don't know. It's just frustrating because then you have Kazuya, where Kazuya, I think he's a problem too, but you have to like really know how to play him to be able to do that at least. Like at least when it feels like I could have just put the controller down and had the same results because I can't even freaking move. At least they know their combo. Whereas with Steve, it just feels like because you got to really do those inputs to be able to play Kazuya. So with Steve, when they're just doing this, it's so frustrating to lose when they just stood there for half the match. The other half, well, I guess there's 3 halves. The other half, they're just mining. They're just mining. And then the other half, they're just the sword. And then, you know, you get to the ledge, and then they do all these weird things while you're at the ledge. Like, they keep throwing down the anvil. You got to keep teching against the stage, and you finally get up there, but they got the TNT there, and they're already ready standing there. They do the thing with the pressure plates, like, above them. There's so many different things, and it's like, dude, I just want to be able to play. I just want to be able to play and again, this is depending on how hard they even want to try, because sometimes they're not even doing that, and they're still just, I don't know. I know at this point, you know, this is such a pointless conversation, but I want to end this video off by saying I really hope that in the next Smash game, they don't do something like this, where they leave the game in the state that it's in. Because, like, people will bring up, you know, like, tournaments, and it's like, well, like, you know, we're not having all Steves, or, like, all this, or all that, but it's like, but there's still such a, like, clear difference in Steve compared to the entire roster that it's just kind of lame that you see this, like, insane uphill battle to compete with this character. Because you can make the argument of like, well, why doesn't everyone just switch to Steve then? But it's like, well, because I mean, people still like want to have like fun in the way that they have fun with Smash. So not everyone's going to switch to Steve. So you could say that it's their fault. You could say it's my fault that I won't switch to Steve. But like, why are we even having this conversation when they could just balance it a little more? I know it'll never be perfect, but when you have a character that is that drastically different from the rest of the cast, I just feel like they should tweak them at that point. And again, I don't know at what point Steve's stuff was getting found out, when they decided to stop doing patches. I don't know the timeline there. But they did something very similar with Smash 4. Bayonetta was so clearly the best character in the game, and they did nerf her, but it wasn't even close to enough. She was just super, super good. And then they just left the game like that. And I think that's what's the weirdest part to me, is because what gets brought up is like the casual play. It's like, well, the game's not all about competitive. There's the casual play. You know, when you look at the sales, I mean, clearly more casual players are playing Smash than competitive, because the sales numbers clearly do indicate that, because it sold like what, like 30 some odd million, maybe even more. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but there's no way they're all competitive. Like you know that, because just based off of even just, well, I guess online wouldn't fully indicate that, but just from watching competitive play in general, you know that majority of the sales are casual players, which is fine, by the way. I don't care how someone plays the game. But my thing is that casual players are going to get annoyed by this stuff too, because if the character is that much better and they're both playing at a casual level, even with items on and stuff, I mean, Steve is just so good that I feel like it's just going to annoy casual players too. So where they're like, well, I guess I can't play the character I wanted to play because you play Steve. I feel like there's probably been like kids on the playground being like, you want to play Smash Bros later? And it's like, no, if you play Steve. Like, I could already picture that's probably like a thing happening at like playgrounds. Although I'm, 50,000 years old and I'm complaining about this topic that doesn't even need to be talked about anymore. Look, I just want them to freaking not do this again. I don't expect it to be perfect, but my goodness, I clearly do love Smash because I have over 3,000 hours in it and I still play it to this day. I just would like it. Again, I don't expect it to be perfect. I just don't want them to leave the next Smash game like this, where there is just so clearly a character that should be tweaked. I think Kazuya would be in that conversation too. If it didn't take so much effort to get good with him, I think we'd see just as like, if Kazuya could be played at the same, like in a similar way as Steve, like, and I want to add this. I know that good Steves are very good at what they're doing. I don't want to act like anyone can select Steve and do all the crazy advanced stuff as all the Steves. There is still skill there. But if Kazuya could be played in a similar sense of the learning curve as Steve, I think Kazuya would be in the same conversation. I think the only reason why Kazuya is not talked about as much is because there's only so many Kazuyas, because you have to like learn all of those crazy combos. But I don't know. This was just a long-winded video on a topic, like I said, that is pretty much irrelevant at this point. It's just my main thing is, please, Sakurai, don't leave the game like you did Smash 4 and like you did Ultimate in the next Smash game. I don't expect it to be perfect, but I really don't want it to be this lopsided in the next one, because it just sucks to constantly feel the same way when I fight Steve, knowing that there is just never going to be a patch. So, hoping for the next Smash game. I mean, it's going to be a clean slate anyway, even if it ends up being some sort of port or something. I mean, it's going to be a whole new experience. So I'm definitely excited for it. My goodness, I hope that we don't go down the same road again.